How to learn Ruby in 2019, a step-by-step plan. In this video, you are going to learn how you can get started learning Ruby so you can become a professional Ruby developer. Hey, my name is Jesus Castillo, and I would like to help you learn Ruby. So first, let's talk about why Ruby. Why is Ruby a good idea for you to learn? Well, learning Ruby is going to help you put your creativity into use. You will be able to create websites and other kinds of programs. So this also can be very rewarding because it feels good to see something that it was just an idea in your mind, right? And then you make it real. You make it real with programming, with Ruby. So that's the power of a programming language. And when you learn Ruby well, you can also do this full time, become a professional Ruby developer, and get paid for writing Ruby code and for using your new programming skills. Or you can create your own projects that you can share with others and make some kind of impact in the world, right? That's something I think everyone wants. We want to make some kind of difference, and programming is one way to do that. So if you like to be creative, and also if you like challenges and you like to create new things, then Ruby is a great choice for you. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about the steps that you need to take to learn Ruby. And the first step is to make the decision to learn it. Okay, this is very important. If you don't make the decision to learn Ruby, then you will be considering all these other options, right? So what that means is that your focus and your energy will be scattered around, and you won't get anything done. You won't make any progress if you don't make a decision to learn one thing instead of 50 things, right? Think about the outcome that you want. What is it that you want? And make a decision now to learn Ruby and focus your energy into it. And that will allow you to make progress faster than if you're one day should I learn this or that or this other thing or everything at the same time. Well, it's your choice, but if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you have a lot of interest in Ruby or some interest in Ruby. I know it's the time to make the decision to go into it and start learning. So once you make that decision, that's the first step to commit to learning. The next step is to set the right expectations. What does that mean? Well, a lot of people want you to believe that you can learn really fast, that it's really easy to learn a programming language. Like, you might find some people saying learn Ruby in 20 minutes, for example, learn Ruby in 60 minutes. Well, it takes a bit more of time than that, right? Imagine someone that says, hey, you can become a doctor very easy in 60 minutes. What would you think of that, right? It's kind of ridiculous. Same thing. And don't think that just because programming is you are working with computers, that it doesn't matter. It's actually that it's easy. It's actually a complex thing, can be as complex as the human body or more. And it's also serious because with your programming you can affect the lives of millions of people, right? Just look at how many users Facebook has, for example, or Twitter or any other popular site that you know, right? So let's go back to setting expectations. The right expectation for you, this so you don't give up early and you know what you're coming into, is that it's going to take time and effort in your part, right? So you just know that, and you're going to have up and downs. That's fine. There are going to be times where you will be frustrated, but that's all normal. It's part of the learning process. Okay. I'm also going to be talking about how you can avoid pitfalls that a lot of beginners fall into, but that's going to be later in this video. Now what I want to talk about is how do you actually get started learning Ruby. Note that we have the right mindset in place. We have made the decision, we set the right expectations, and then we're going to start learning about Ruby. So the first thing I would recommend, if you ask me, so you don't have to do this or anything I say, but if you ask me how to get started, I would say first make the decision, set expectations, and then read this article to get an overview, a big picture of what Ruby and Ruby on Rails is. Okay? Because Ruby and Ruby on Rails, they're different things. So beginners often get confused. And in this article, you get an overview of the differences. So that's just the first thing. Just get this overview of what Rails is and what's the difference between Ruby and Ruby on Rails. Next, I would go to this tutorial that I wrote, and it's called the Definitive Ruby Tutorial for Complete Beginners. And I assume that's where you are at, so that's going to be very helpful for you. So how do you find this? Well, you can go directly to this URL, which will also be in the description of the video, or you can search in Google for Ruby tutorial, and then you will probably find one of the first entries will be from rubyguides.com, which is my site, and then you will find this tutorial. So this tutorial starts by giving you an introduction, how to begin learning, and then we get right into it. First, you need to download and install Ruby, right? I give you the instructions, you follow them, and you will have Ruby installed. Next, you're going to learn about IRB. So IRB, very important thing that you need to be familiar with. IRB is a program, and this program, when you open it, it looks like this. Okay, so that might be intimidating. What what does all of these things mean, but don't worry about that. This is what we call a prompt. This is just where you will type your Ruby code. So this is very useful because you can type Ruby code into IRB, and what you get as a result, as the output, is the result of the program. So a very simple Ruby program might be 5 plus 5, right? You type that into IRB, and of course you get 10. But that's just an example so you can see how it works. So if you're following along, you have Ruby installed, use open IRB. To open IRB, you use a terminal. So terminal is this window right here, right? It looks like a black window, and it has this prompt and this cursor, and you can type, just type IRB, and then IRB opens. In my case, it will look different because I have a custom setup right here, but it will say IRB. So in your case, it will look like this, and then you can type. You can do 5, 5, and of course you get the result. Okay. And what you want to do is get familiar with this, so you can try different combinations. You can try 5 times 10, for example, and of course you get the result. But don't worry, it will get more advanced than this. So the purpose of this is just to get to know IRB, know how to open it, to make sure that you have Ruby installed and that everything is working, right? To get used to, you put something in. So this is how a computer works, right? You put something in, which might be you type something with your keyboard, and then you get something out. That's called output. So this input and output. So that's like very computer programming terms that you might hear. So that's the purpose of this exercise, and you're going to be using IRB a lot during your learning and also during your professional programming career. Now there is also other ways to run Ruby applications, as I explained here. So what this means is that you can exit IRB, and then you can open a file. So VI is a text editor, but you can use any other like Atom, even Notepad. It doesn't really matter at this point, right? The important thing is that you can write something and you can save the file. So if we create a file like app.rb, then we can type some code, for example, put 1, 2, 3, which just prints 1, 2, 3, nothing fancy here. We save this file, then we do ruby app.rb. It's as easy as this. And we get the output back. We get the result of running this simple Ruby program. So that's another way to run Ruby code. So the difference is that IRB gives you instant feedback. That's very important when you're learning. That's why I like to use IRB a lot, okay? And I want you to use IRB a lot. So now I want to talk about practice, because not practicing what you learn is a pitfall, a mistake that people often do when they're getting started. They think that maybe you don't do this and that's fine, but I saw people that some people do this is they read this and they think they are done, they already learned. Well, if you read anything about learning, about memory retention, about remembering what you learn, you will read that only like, I think it's only like 10% that you remember if you read something once. But if you actually practice and put into practice what you learn, you learn a lot more. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but I think more than twice that you would learn, that you will remember if you read this once. So the technique here is to read first. So you need the theory, you need the ideas, you need the concepts first, and then you apply them. How do you apply them? Well, at the end of these lessons, so there are 7 lessons in this tutorial. It's very complete for beginners. I give you some ideas of things you can try, some exercises. So right now we are just working with numbers because that's the easiest thing that you can do, right? You already know arithmetic, you already know what this is going to give you. So there is nothing new here. And that's the point, because it needs to be simple. So to practice, you open IRB and you try these exercises. In this case, you just copy this and see what happens. And then you make some changes. You make like your own versions of these exercises and see what happens, right? And that's how you practice. Of course, you're going to be practicing more advanced concepts and ideas. You're going to be working with strings, arrays, hashes, objects, classes, etc., etc. And don't worry if any of these things made any sense in terms of the words, I say, like a string, array, right? You will learn those. Now, so if you practice, you will avoid this problem of not learning well and forgetting things. But another thing that a lot of beginners and people learning don't see, that they don't do, and that's very important and can be a pitfall if you don't do it, is repetition. You need to repeat the same thing. You need to learn again the same thing. You need to review. Okay, it's very important. Even if reviewing something that you already learned, maybe it's not the most fun thing in the world, I understand, but it's part of what makes learning really stick in, right? So you want to learn this a few times, read this a few times, review, maybe take notes, okay? And here's a technique that you can use to take your learning even further and even faster and more powerful learning. So if you do this, these suggestions that I'm giving you, you're going to learn faster, better than others that are not doing this. And if you don't do this, then you're going to be learning slower, and then you're going to be wondering why you're not making progress. So the practice here is, the technique here is, first read, understand. If you want to make notes, take notes, then practice, then review. Okay, that's first. And then as a bonus, you can quiz yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, you ask yourself questions about this particular lesson. For example, one of the questions might be, what's IRB? Okay, so you want to be able to answer that question. Why is IRB useful? Okay, so if you don't know the answer, you look for the answer and maybe write it down and you say, oh, now I know, right? And you keep coming up with questions like that. And this self quizzing, or whatever you want to call this technique, this technique of asking yourself questions about what you learn, is going to help you remember and learn faster. So there you go. So after that, you keep going through the lessons, you learn about variables, what is a variable, why is a variable useful, what kind of variables we have. That's the questions that you might want to be able to answer. And you have the next lesson, what is a string, what is an array, what is a hash, why is it useful, okay? Then conditional statements, loops very important, conditional statements also very important, and all of these build one on top of the other. So don't skip things, and make sure to review and use these techniques and practice, okay? So that's your plan for learning Ruby, the step-by-step plan. First, set your mindset right, make the decision. Hopefully you already done that. Then second, set the right expectations. Understand that it's going to take effort, it's going to take work, it's going to take time. So don't expect to understand this instantly, right? It's going to take some time to sink in. And then you learn that article to understand what is Rails, what is Ruby, what's the difference, what you can do with Rails and Ruby. I give you examples. And then you come into this tutorial and you go through the lessons one by one, and you do the practice and you do the review, okay? And that's it. That's how you can learn Ruby. And when you are done with all of the lessons, all of the practices, all of the review, all of the exercises, you can start thinking about some small Ruby programs that you can build. Maybe to automate some task. Maybe you can write like a small calculator for something, right? It doesn't have to be a graphical interface. It will be a lot easier to use the text. You can be like a small text game, right? Using conditionals and loops. You can say, would you like this? You can literally write. There are old RPG games that are like this, I believe, and it's like, there is a dragon in this room. You write that in your program. Would you like to go to this other room and try to find a weapon, or maybe write something like that? You make a little text game, and then you have different options, and that becomes your conditional and your loops and all of that. And there are also websites where you can find coding challenges, but you need to make sure to find coding challenges for beginners, because a lot of these exercises are for more advanced developers. So make sure that you find challenges and exercises and small projects for beginners, okay? If you want to do that. And when you're done with all of that, then you're ready. Then you will have a solid starting point for learning Rails well. Because if you don't learn Ruby first, then you're going to be very confused about Rails, because Rails is based on top of Ruby, and that's like learning Rails first is like starting the house from the roof. you don't want to do that, right? You want your base first, which is learning Ruby. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful and useful. If you did, please click the like button for me so I know that you like this video and so more people can find it. If you want to keep learning, you can watch more of my videos, and you can also go to my website rubyguides.com, where I have this tutorial and a lot more. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you in the next video.